Lights up the trains at Bandana Square. Nation's best model train layouts over the holidays. Jason Davis went on the road to Bandana Square in St. Paul to visit the trains and the people that make them run.
Train layouts. But this one is the ultimate. I'm Jason Davis on the road in St. Paul, and I'll be back with a look at trains at Bandana.
At a glance, it's almost real. It's like turning the clock back 50 years to the days when the steam train was the best and the most glamorous means of getting around the United States. It has taken decades for the members of the Twin City Model Railroad Club to build this scale model of the St. Anthony Falls area of Minneapolis. Making the detailed trains took just as long.
I spent over a year and a half just researching the colors alone for that train.
Most of these men are retired now and spend their days working on the hobby they love. Retired, but only from the drudgery of having to get up and go to work.
I'll invest 1,700 hours on one project here, but I won't work 1 hour outside for anybody.
Why not, Al?
I'm retired.
Ray Norton is 73, and his love affair with scale models goes back to the Chicago World's Fair.
I should say that I bought my first pair of scale trucks in 1934. Wow! My dad was a Sioux-line engine man, and I sort of kind of liked railroads.
You never worked on a railroad yourself?
No.
They work here all year long. New construction, exact replicas of buildings that were familiar to their fathers, take shape in a workshop above the layout. But once a year, at Christmas time, a magical change takes place at this miniature Minneapolis. They call it Night Train.
You see the little kids, and they look at it, and they wonder what they're looking at. And they are getting told that in Grandpa's day, this is what the freight trains looked like.
For most people, the time of the steam train has passed. But for these enthusiasts, it's as real today as it was half a century ago. It's a fun way to turn back the clock.
I'm the youngest 73-year-old man you ever seen. I'm about 16 years old now.
The last night train is next Saturday night, but the enthusiasts here at Trains at Bandana welcome visitors at any time during the day. With photographer Joe Caffrey, Jason Davis, Channel 5 Eyewitness News on the road in St. Paul.
And who can resist a model train or hundreds? How they all ended up in one spot in Finding Minnesota.
Now, from Minnesota's most watched station, this is WCCO 4 News.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason DeRusha.
And I'm Liz Collins. An oversized hobby. It's a miniature look at the Twin Cities history. We're going to take you rolling down the tracks as we go Finding Minnesota areas, not only for passengers, but also grain, iron ore, and other freight. Tonight, Mike Brinkley shows us where that bustling scene still exists in a miniature form as we go Finding Minnesota.
It wasn't too many decades ago that the downtown areas of Minneapolis and St. Paul had a very active railroad system.
In fact, the fastest trains in the world from 1936 to 1972 ran between St. Paul and Chicago.
Inside the Twin City Model Railroad Museum, smaller versions of those trains are still chugging along 6 days a week.
It pretty much is the Minneapolis skyline as it was in the 50s when the Fauché Tower was the tallest building in Minneapolis.
You got the Stone Arch Bridge there?
Yep.
Volunteers run this museum, many of them without any connections to the railroad industry. They simply enjoy model building and storytelling.
I like the history aspect. I like the stories. I like to tell people about what we've recreated here.
You see the trains?
They've recreated a time period from the 40s and 50s when diesel and steam engines shared the tracks and streetcars still rolled down the 3rd Avenue Bridge. The museum got its start in 1934 in St. Paul. It spent the past 28 years at Bandana Square, which used to be locomotive repair shops.
The best thing is when people see one of these trains and remember where they were when the real thing went by.
They'll bring up stories of how when they worked on the railroad, or, you know, when they were kids, they remember the railroad going by.
One of my favorites is you get 3 generations down here, and the grandparents will say, I remember that train. That's the one I proposed to your grandma on.
It's those younger generations they really hope to impress. So this colorful era won't soon be forgotten.
And the nice thing about a museum like this, if you're involved here, is you get to share it with the public.
It is a great activity for both adults and kids, and it's free. Now, the model is a replica of the Twin Cities and surrounding areas at a time when streetcars and trains were the main modes of transportation. There are 4 running trains, both passenger and freight trains, that run on a complex tracking system, and they look amazingly realistic. In addition to the trains, miniature buildings, people, and scenery make it a fascinating and detailed display. Now, here's the original White Castle in St. Paul, and you can even see what's playing at the old Grandview Theater, the classic film Key Largo. This state-of-the-art model railroad system has been built and maintained by the Twin Cities Railroad Club, a group that clearly cares about the project. So, for both kids and adults, the model railroad display at Bandana Square is called the best.
I don't know what it is about the trains that attracts us to the hobby, but we're all here together enjoying what we do. Because our members come from all different walks of life, there's something for everyone here. We have room for carpenters, electrical people, people who like to do scenery work, photographers, historians, you name it. You could find whatever skill you have, you could probably find a place in model railroading to use it. Most of us in this club started off with trains when everybody got a Lionel train set for Christmas. This was before the jet planes had taken over, and the world as we know it today became different from what it was back in this era that we're modeling. It's more of a capturing of history than the bigger the boys, the bigger the toys. What we're doing here is recreating a scene of parts of the Twin Cities area as it was around 1950.